and welcome to Today in Woburn. I'm your host, Samantha Stone, and today we're going to have two topics. So, of course, we have our mayor, Scott Galvin, as always, and we also have a special treat. We have Kris Mullen, who's the founder of Voter Rides, who's going to talk to us a little bit about voting. So we have a whole bunch of things that we're going to talk about today. Welcome again, Scott.
Well, it's good to be here. Thanks, Samantha.
I mean, I feel like I just talked to you because we did that special episode. I want you to know we got so many comments that I got from folks how much they appreciated taking the time to get them educated and up to date about what was going on. They really appreciated it. And I think we hit most of the questions that people asked. I've got a couple of new ones that have come in as well.
Good.
Let's talk a little bit about our COVID status. When I went to the website, the last time I took a screenshot of the website was like October 2nd, and the sort of trending chart wasn't loading for me this morning. And it looks like we've got about 47 cases in the last little shy of 2 weeks. Last time we spoke, we'd only had one hospitalization. How are we looking right now?
So the same thing is the trend is still trending up, which is concerning, as you and I keep saying. It's concerning. So I mean, we're trending up. Don't have great news as far as how many cases we had. I think we had the same this week that just closed as the one before. So based on what we're saying, we're going to be remaining in the red when we report out tomorrow.
Okay. Thanks for that update. We did last spoke. You said you were going to make a decision about Halloween yesterday. Have you had a chance to make that formal decision? You said you were leaning towards personal choice, but wanted to check in.
We're definitely we're going to go with the personal choice. Put information out from the CDC. I just have to put that in writing, get it over to the Times, and you get feedback from other parents and whatnot in the community. A lot of them are going to lean that way. They'll some have decided they absolutely will not let their children go, and some really want to do it, and they'll be cautious with their children and make sure they follow CDC regulations. On the same vein, I had an elderly couple from, one of the more busy streets in the city, and they said, we don't want to. And I said, well, that's okay. I said, you turn your lights off and people know just not to go there. So there's definitely a mixed opinions out there, and people should be able to choose what they want to do and just do it safely and make sure they protect their children's health and those around them.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think the folks who are listening and watching will see when they get CDC guidelines come out, if they haven't read them, that basically what we're recommending is if you choose to have your lie down and have trick-or-treaters come to your home, don't have them come to your door. Have them come, have something set up for people to be able to grab off there. You certainly wave from a distance and say hello and wish everybody happy Halloween, but try and limit that face-to-face, very close contact interaction as much as we can. Right. And also try and limit shared candy bowls is one of the other things that are in the instructions, and kind of have things laid out so people don't have to touch things that other people are going to touch. So thank you for that update. I think people will now be able to make their plans and do the things that feel comfortable and correct for them.
That's good.
Great. I had a couple other questions for you. So one of the things before we start talking about voting that I wanted to talk about is Rayanne had asked me about the Veil Project. And I got to tell you, I didn't know what the Veil Project was. And she said it was the old jelly plant. And I thought, I have no idea. So I thought I would ask you and find out what the situation is there.
I mean, that's moving along. It's moving along as planned. It's been a couple of years in the making, but it's a very big site. It's going to be mixed use. The first phase of the development will be based around residential, and that's at the southern end of the site closest to Boston. So that'll be more residential. And then as they move forward, they've got office space, around 700,000 square feet of office space. So it's being built out. It's going to be exciting, and they're working on the utilities. So it's as I said, it's going to be a good project. It's going to be busy, but as you know, we have people asking questions about the widening of Montvale Ave. That's been a project that we anticipate being finished by July of 2021. You'll notice some telephone poles. There's still some double poles over there, and the streets have been widened, but they're getting there, and they're putting the final utilities in underground. Eversource has a big project. Their upgrade that they're putting their transformers underground. We have some water work to do over there, and we should be pretty good to go.
Great. And when is it scheduled to sort of have people living there if the residential comes first? Is it in the end of next year, or we don't quite know yet?
We don't quite know. They're in front of the city council for some
Okay.
permitting on a special permit, so it'll be a while.
Okay, great. Thanks for the update.
Yeah.
One of the other things that folks had asked is that we know we've allowed some extra outdoor dining, people to be able to use some of our outside space. Now, it's going to get cold at some point relatively soon in the next few weeks or months. But will people in restaurants be able to continue to do that as long as, patrons are willing to sit outside?
Well, we're going to have to check the authorization from the governor, but I thought it was through November 1st.
Okay.
And there is talk about, expanding that, particularly in Boston. Like I've been into the North End. I had dinner there. It was really busy. So some of the busier areas, the destinations, they really, I think they'll be depending on it. So I would have to say there'll be an extension of that. We'll definitely take advantage of it for those areas that want to do it. I think anything we can do to help our restaurants will go a long way.
Great. You recently had a grab and go senior dinner, which is not the same as it has always been, but did a lot of folks able to participate and enjoy it?
I'm glad you brought that up. So that's the mayor's senior dinner. That was started by Mayor Tom Higgins back in the I want to say the late 70s, and the tradition has been every Sunday before Election Day. Every year they hold that at the high school, and then there's entertainment and whatnot. So we're in the planning stages. We've got another 3 weeks. So I'm glad you brought it up. And we're urging the seniors. It's going to be a drive-through on November 1st, right at City Hall. So we've got another 3 weeks or so to get it out. And there's been a good response to it. Seniors are urged to call here and register, or at the senior center. So we know what the head count is. But we're expecting 250 people, 300 people will probably sign up for it.
Wow, that's great. I'm so glad. I misread it. I think I saw the November 1st and I thought it said October 1st. So I'm so glad that we clarified, and there's still time.
I'm glad you did too. And that's like I said, that's been going on since Mayor Tom Higgins. And the reason we're able to do it is because of the generosity, of our local businesses that donate to that cause. And then we use the funds from that to buy the dinner and a little prize for every senior that comes. So we want to thank the businesses. We haven't asked them for any money this year because we know how difficult it is. We have a little bit of money left over from last year, so we'll be using that. But again, it's a shout out to the businesses who always step forward, and knowing what's going on this year, we're definitely not looking for any of their support, but just want to thank them for all they have done in the years past.
Oh, I'd love it. And I'm glad you found a way to do that safely and give them something to look forward to. I think that's great. November 1st. And if you haven't signed up, make sure you or your senior friends and family go ahead and do that. It sounds like a great time.
Yeah, excellent.
Great. And then last little question before we move to voting. I know on last time we spoke, the small business grants had been extended until October 23rd, I believe is the new deadline. Have we been seeing more people apply for those loans or grants?
We're still having, we have, I don't want to say a low interest, but we have had not as many applicants as some of our surrounding neighbors. We partnered with the WBA. They're doing their best to get that information out to their businesses who they think might be able to take advantage of it. So the response hasn't been, and part of it, I blame the application process on the federal government and the requirements they have. They don't make it easy to get this, to access this money and have them put it to work. Usually they do. Some of their other programs during the COVID have been fantastic, from the federal government right down to the state to the local. But this one that's through the CDBG has been very cumbersome and not quite as easy to access the funds. So we're hoping, despite that, some of these businesses who really need that money can avail themselves of it.
Great. Well, thank you for that. I want to talk a little bit with you about some of the voting information. Bill and the team have been incredibly busy.
Yeah.
I think he told me they sent out 9,400 ballots
last week.
Yeah. So an incredible amount of ballots that has gone out. There is I don't know if you're familiar, the deadline for when those need to get put back?
October 23rd, they have to be, that's the deadline to request it.
Yes, deadline to request it, exactly. And I think, and I just have it jotted down here, ballots have to be returned by 8 p.m., so very specifically on November 3rd, or be postmarked by November 3rd. So either one of those will work for those who aren't physically here. But if you postmark it by November 3rd, it still has to arrive by 5 p.m. on November 6th. So anyone who has some distance, we know mail has been a little bit slower through the pandemic and some shortage of staffing. So, probably don't wait until November 3rd. Get it out there sooner.
And the other thing, Samantha, I think you know that, which is important, that the ballots have gone out. Most of them have, I think, were sent out. They're coming in really by the bucketfuls. And a lot of the residents, which I would advise too, if you don't want to go into City Hall, which you can do, you can actually bring it back to City Hall in person if you'd like. Another easy option is that we have the secure sealed ballot on the side door, where you just come and you can drop the ballot at any hour you want to, and it's emptied every morning. So no excuse to not get that ballot back. And as we suggested, with the mail being so busy now, I would strongly urge people that if they're going to wait till the last minute, they should bring it back in person.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. My parents dropped their ballot off in the drop box and came over for some outdoor, safely distanced hot chocolate to celebrate over the weekend. So definitely, and actually, it was actually quite nice. I've heard from 3 or 4 other people who have been, and there's been other people there. So it looks like people are really taking advantage of that opportunity. We could have a banner year in terms of voter turnout this year if everyone who participates in those ballots and comes in person and does all that. It can be a really great turnout.
It can be a great turnout. I agree.
Yeah. I did ask Bill about what percentages of the votes were done through the City Hall drop box specifically, because I was curious how many folks have used that versus other means of voting. And he said in the primaries, it's about 19% of registered voters. So it's actually a big percentage, and perhaps more will do that as well.
Yeah, that's
this
big.
year.
Yeah, in the primary, was it 38%? So that sounds, I'm not making it up, it seems about half of the voters, right?
Yeah, it's a really good percentage. So I think that was great. We do have also what has been turned on now. I think on the 17th is the first day for physical in-person early voting that's done at the Wyman, I believe. Is that correct?
That's Saturday, yep.
Yep. And you don't need to plan, schedule ahead. You can just show up with, as you would going to any other polling place. It just gives some additional hours and times that people might come when they would. It tends to be a little bit less busy than the polling places on election day. And so for those folks who might want to go in person and like the ritual of voting physically in person, but want to make sure they're doing it with a little less crowds, that's probably a good option for them.
Yeah, that's for the next 2 weeks, Saturdays and Sundays included. And check the city's website for the hours. I know they start at 9 o'clock on Saturday, but if you want to double check on the hours, that's a good thing to do. And like you said, it gives people another option for voting. Everybody, no matter where you live in the city, votes at the Wyman School. That's the old Wyman School on Main Street by Jack's Variety. So if you want to do it, that's a good option too.
I love it. And I love that we have such a fun marker of where to go. Everybody knows Jack's, right?
That's right.
My son certainly has spent a lot of time stopping in there to get snacks and things after school. So thank you so much for joining us and giving us an update on all of this. I think before I invite Kris to join us and talk about Voter Rise, I just do want to remind us that cases are going up. We've been pretty fortunate that hospitalizations and deaths have not resulted right now, but we shouldn't be complacent. And we do need to be cautious and careful. I think there was a notice that went out to the school today about some students who were positive. So we're tracking and monitoring very carefully.
And it's been good in the schools. I say, right, I keep stressing how much effort was put in by the school department and resources and the capital expended to make sure that the mitigation's in place to protect our children, teachers, administrative staff, and they're doing a great job. And if I could, just 2 quick notes about activities going on this weekend. One, at City Hall from 9 to 1, we have the annual Shredded event where it's a free shred. So people are saving up documents that shouldn't be thrown out and should be shred, like your tax returns or bills. We'll be here at City Hall from 9 to 1. And the second event is over at Spence Farm. That's the for refrigeration and those recycling for, refrigerators, computers, and air conditioners and all that stuff. Paul Medeiros and Laurie Medeiros, who've been doing this for charities for some time, and they offer a great price. So if you're out and you want to do a double whammy this weekend to clean up your basement or your garage, good opportunity. That recycling is over at the Spence Farm, which is off of Wyman Street, in the New Herald Wyman. So 2 good events, and
That's great. I got to tell you, I have a basement that needs a little fall cleaning, and every time the recycling vet, I like go and take a couple of old monitors or TVs.
Yeah.
I don't know why I have such a collection of TVs and monitors in my basement, but I never seem to run dry of
I have a
ones
bunch
to
I
take.
paid for too. But the prices, if you check the prices, they're great
good.
prices, and all the proceeds go to a great cause over the Boys and Girls Club, and Paul and Laurie have been doing a great job with that for well over 20 years. So it's a good thing. Clean out your basement, and it's for a good cause.
Yeah, thank you for that. We're bringing that up. I think that's great. And also the Boys and Girls Club does fantastic work. In particular, right now, they're running one of the supervised learning programs. So anything we can do to help support them and their community efforts is appreciated.
Okay. Thanks,
Great.
Samantha.
Thanks, Scott.
Bye-bye.
See you next week.
You too.
Welcome, Kris. I want to bring Kris Mullen to the line. We've been talking a lot about voting and everything that we have going on. And Kris has founded a really great idea about voter rides. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Good to be here.
I'm really glad that you've joined us. Tell us a little bit about what voter rides is all about.
Early in the pandemic, I came across a group on Facebook, SCI, Engaging Resident Volunteers. And they had people, who needed help getting groceries, going out shopping, whatnot. And from there, it was like, with the election coming up and being so important, it was like these same people could probably use help getting to vote, whether it's physically getting there or having their ballots being brought to City Hall for them. And so I figured if I can do food shopping for somebody, I can drive them to the poll.
I
People in the
love
city
it.
can help.
Well, thank you for organizing it. I think if I understand correctly, you are both recruiting people to help drive as well as letting folks and raising awareness of those who might need help with a ride getting somewhere.
Yes.
Great. So tell us, are you supporting rides for early voting as well, or just on election day?
I only been focused on election day. I kind of forgot about the early voting piece. But people are welcome to reach out and see if, there's availability through me or one of my volunteers to get them to early voting. Certainly, I'm happy to help people out in any way that I can.
I love it. So tell us a little bit about what we're doing to keep people safe. Being in a car together is an area. We have some precautions that I'm assuming drivers and voters will be taking to keep each other safe.
Absolutely. Everyone has to wear a mask. If the rider refuses to wear a mask, the driver takes off without them. Vice versa, if the driver refuses to wear a mask, then the rider can call me and I will get someone else to pick them up who will follow the rules. I'm going to be providing everyone with wipes so they can wipe down the common areas of the cars, the doors, interior, exterior, belt buckles, anywhere that passenger may be touching gets wiped down in between passengers, before and in between passengers.
Well, I think this is such a lovely thing that you're doing. Thank you for taking the initiative and helping the community. For those folks who might want to volunteer to drive or arrange to be picked up and get a ride, how should they reach you?
They can use my email, voterrides2020@gmail.com.
Hey, that's pretty impressive that email address was available. You snagged
I wanted
a good
voter
one.
rides, but somebody beat me to it.
Well, I think Voter Rides 2020 works perfectly well. Anything else that you'd like folks to know about the program?
Just that it's nonpartisan. I may not agree with who you're going to vote for, but I agree with your constitutional right to vote for whoever you'd like, and I will get you there to do so. I'm asking both parties to not discuss politics because, as we know these days, it can get incredibly heated, and I'm particularly guilty of that myself. So everybody just keep it nice and civil. Hey, what kind of weather we're having these days? How are those passed? Yeah.
Well, I think that's good advice. So this really is a service. It doesn't matter, who you're voting for. It only matters that you want to vote, and you're doing a great service for the community, allowing us to help each other out and make sure everybody's voice gets to be heard who'd like to participate. Again, for those who are watching, there are rides on election day, but also if you need rides to the ballot box, if you don't feel comfortable going into the standing in line and voting in person, you also have that option, assuming you've gotten your mail-in ballot and that is something that you've requested and received.
Correct. And if somebody has mobility issues, they don't, or for whatever reason, they don't want to leave the house to deliver the ballot, they don't want to trust the post office, me or one of my volunteers will pick up your ballot and take it for you. As opposed to,
so I know there's some guidelines. Yeah, there's some guidelines about what we're allowed to do and some signatures and things. So I'm sure you're working with the town clerk's office to make sure all that stuff is in place, and that's fantastic. For those who do choose to take it up, will the driver wait for them, or will the driver come back when they're done voting? How will that work?
I'm planning on 1 hour blocks per person that needs a ride, or per household that needs a ride. And that encompasses picking the person up, getting them to the poll ride, waiting for them, and then getting them home. And of course, with the riders, this isn't a time for socialization. Go in, place your vote, come out. If you happen to see your neighbor or a long lost friend, hey, catch you later. Got to get to my ride so they can get to their next person.
Well, I think that's great. Thank you again for doing this service. And you make a good point that there are often multiple people within a household to vote. So encouraging people to have everyone who's eligible to vote to go out and do it together.
Absolutely.
That's great. Thank you so much for joining us, Kris. And as always, thank you, Woburn, for watching, and please continue to take care of each other.